Okay, I'm going to talk about the concept of figure eights with nunchucks. Before seeing this, I recommend that you go watch Christov on YouTube, Nunchaku Christov videos called Nunchaku Theory, about swings and grips, planes, all that stuff will be useful. So, what is a figure eight? A figure eight is, well, before I explain that, I should explain what a rotation is. This would be a downward rotation because the swinging stick is going down, while this would be an upward rotation. So, going on to figure eights, a figure eight is just a transition between a downward rotation and an upward rotation, or different types of rotations. Like, for example, a rotation spinning this way and a rotation spinning that way, or a rotation spinning that way and I guess a rotation spinning that way. So when you're doing a figure eight, it's not just a transition between different rotations, different spins, but it also involves moving between planes. And that's why I think it's useful for you to watch the video about planes. But essentially, let's say there's a line running across here where my hand is, where my arm is, and there's a line running across here where my arm is. So let's call this my near plane because that's where the nunchucks are currently, and that's where you naturally hold them. And I'm doing a downspin here. Now figure eight is moving over to an upspin on my far plane. So that makes a figure eight, except it can be between different planes. I believe this is called a table plane, and I guess something else above plane or something. So a vertical figure eight can also be like that, with this usual one being a horizontal figure eight. Now, well, that's what a figure eight is, and when you see a figure eight, there are several different kinds of figure eights, and I think that comes down to several different variables of why figure eights are different, and I think we can sum those up in, I think, about 6 main points. The first one being, well, what type of spin it is. Here's a downspin going to an upspin on my far side, but I could also do an upspin here going to a downspin on that side, like so, versus that. Great. But another variable can be which grip it is. See, here's a back grip. I was just in front grip. So a front grip figure eight looks like that. A back grip figure eight looks like that. Another variable is where the hand is on the nunchuck. Generally, freestylers hold at the top. Martial artists tend to hold at the bottom for maximum striking range. But no matter what, different hand placements can be used. So this is different from this sort of, and it's worth noting that. Also, where the hand is placed, or where the arm is placed, because like in some of the stranger variations, I suppose, you can go behind the back, like above the head, like over your leg or under your leg, something like that. And yeah, so those are a few main variables that are fundamental to the theory of a figure eight. But well, let's add 2 more variables here. Now, I said a figure eight is a spin there, a spin there, basically. But can we not do multiple spins on each side? The answer is yes. So the number of rotations on each plane makes a figure eight different, because, well, a figure eight is called a figure eight because it moves in a general fashion that's like the number 8. If you're doing multiple rotations, it's still moving like a figure eight. It can still be a figure eight. So multiple rotations on each plane is one of the variables. The other one that I want to talk about is what I call a turning point. A joint is also a good word for this, I suppose. Now, let's try to look at two different figure eights that are otherwise similar. This is a figure eight. I'll call this figure eight 1, and I'll call this figure eight 2. Now, what was the difference between those two? They're both figure eights. They both were in the same grip. They were both had the same arm placement. They had both the same hand placement, same number of rotations. So why were they different? It's because the turning point was different. See, in figure eight number 1, the circles make figure eights. Circles make a lot of the nunchuck moves. Circles rotating around the little joint here, the little link here, a ball bearing for cord nunchucks. They're just like the cord link. So that's all depending on the ball bearing here. I'm using very little arm movement otherwise. Now, meanwhile, figure eight number 2 is using wrist movement. So you see that in here, the wrist serves as a rotational factor, a rotational turning point for the circle, whereas here it's just the ball bearing. Now, I'm going to acknowledge four main turning points, or 4 turning points total, and one being the link on the nunchucks that we've already talked about, in this case the ball bearing, the other being the wrist, and the 2 others would be the elbow. You can do that too, and then the whole arm, or the shoulder, because my whole arm is rotating around my shoulder here. So there are 4 main rotational points, turning points, and you can combine the 4. Like, when I do a figure eight, it's just like I'm using my elbow, my wrist, also the nunchuck joint, not so much the whole arm with the shoulder, but yeah, I'm using 3 about here, and a different number of rotations, which is controlled by the nunchuck joint. So the next time you're watching a video, look out for what turning points different people use, because everyone learns the figure eight move differently. Then look out for what grip they're using, where their arm is placed, where their hand is placed. What else did we go over? Number of rotations on each side, and the different spins. Also, a horizontal figure eight, like that, versus a vertical figure eight. And then you'll see that there are like so many different variations of a figure eight. It's a very freedom-inducing move, I suppose you could say, because really it's just like spinning. Look, it's spinning, and then you can move the nunchucks any which way, and basically moves in a figure eight fashion. Although the basic move is just that. Yeah, so figure eight's very varied move.